Bears, blog, boys, you know it all, computer, analytic, geeky nerds. Michael Schneider, Tom Cavanaugh, the Bear, blog, boys, know-it-alls, doing some podcast somewhere. Nobody wants to hear you. Geeks, you pencil-pushing, skinny jean wearing geeks, you.
Coming to you live from our mom's basement, this is the Bears Blog Boys podcast. I am your co-host, Tom Cavanaugh, here by myself. My guy and other co-host, Michael Schneider, had some technical difficulties on his end, so I'm going to be shooting to do this thing, the Solo Dolo podcast. And yeah, we're here, or I am here to talk Bears and Commanders, which is like become a pretty big rivalry game between fans. I mean, I haven't seen all season, and this includes the Vikings and Lions games. I haven't seen as much trash talk between the Bears fan base and another fan base this entire season. It just continues. I continue to see it on our timelines. There's some bad blood, and there's reasons for that. The way last year's game went, the whole Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams element of this, they were drafted right next to each other. This is always going to be I feel like a big game. There's a lot of ties to each other. And yeah, I think this is one that fans are really looking forward to from both sides because of all of the trash talk and how last year's game went. Obviously, the Tyreek Stevenson play, the Hail Mary, that being such like an iconic moment of last season. I feel like it really defined each season for both teams. So I want to get into that. But before I do, I just wanted to address some things because I talked about some things on Twitter and on last episode about some trade candidates, some hypothetical trades, and I think many people were caught off guard about the DJ Moore trade conversation, right? And maybe I'm jumping the gun, maybe I'm not looking at it from DJ Moore's importance and what he provides to this team. That very well could be the case, but I just wanted to say that. The only reason I am looking to trade, I don't want to make it seem like I am looking to move him. I'm just kind of reading the tea leaves, right? You draft Colston Loveland, top 10. Totally understand that. Colston Loveland was a top 5 player for me. I just saw the talent, and I thought he was such a unique prospect that fit what Ben Johnson wants to do so perfectly that I was okay overlooking like the positional value aspect of the pick. The draft class itself wasn't great. There wasn't like edge rushers galore. Like it wasn't like 2024 where the Bears could have had their pick of like a Jared Verse, Latu, Dallas Turner. Like that wasn't really this class. There wasn't outside of Abdul Carter. I just didn't really see that many bona fide studs. I don't think I had a round 1 grade on any other edge in that situation, especially the ones that fit that what Dennis Allen wants to do. So totally understand that. I'm not saying that was directly correlated to DJ Moore, but then when you turn around and your next pick is Luther Burden, this is what I mean by reading the tea leaves. I don't think you draft Luther Burden if you're not thinking I'm going to eventually move on from DJ Moore. I don't know if they maybe forecasted Rome's breakout being as early as it is. I think Rome is just overtaken the wide receiver 1. And that has nothing to do with DJ Moore. I just think that again, that speaks to how good Rome is and how misused he was last year. I think we could have seen some similar elements to how good Rome is playing if he just was more involved in the offense, if they were designing more things for him like the Bears are currently now. I think we're seeing them design their offense around Rome and making him the primary guy. Again, this has nothing to do with DJ Moore's performance. I just think that Rome probably offers you more in terms of being a guy you can go to consistently with his ability to beat press coverage and just kind of win in multiple ways. So again, this has nothing to do with DJ Moore's performance, has nothing to do with how I think his effort has been. I think he's taken strides from last year, and I think he's obviously more comfortable with this coaching staff than he was last year to kind of consistently deliver that effort. I'm just looking at contractually and then also the moves that the Bears have made, and it's hard not to come to the conclusion that like DJ Moore is eventually going to be on his way out. I truly believe that. I don't think you draft Luther Burden as highly as they did with all of the needs that the Bears had with the mindset of keeping all 3 of these guys. I think Luther Burden, they're trying to gauge how ready he'll be throughout the season or next year, because again, I think there were some rough spots with his game. I think again, zone coverage specifically, we're seeing guys like that struggle all across the league that were not comfortable against zone because of how much teams are running it in the NFL. It's hard to trust those guys, right? Being in the right spot, like just knowing where to find the voids in the zone and being available target. I think that definitely applied to Luther Burden. So I think it's going to be really important to kind of gauge where he's at after the bye week. He missed a lot of training camp with that injury, and we just want to see steady growth. But I'm hoping that they're able to get him more opportunities. So maybe when they work their way up to the trade deadline, if they feel like he can take over a larger role and be the wide receiver 2 of this team, I'm not saying that's set in stone or like they should just give him the opportunity. I think they're going to have to gauge that for themselves. I think you do kind of have to explore trading a DJ Moore, because my thought process is the defense needs a lot of help. And we'll talk about the defense in this preview, because I went back and kind of watched them in depth. And yeah, I think there's a lot of concerning elements of this defense that have to change, or they have to make talent upgrades. And that's not going to come all in this season, like in season. They're going to have to really work towards that in the off season, but they're going to have the resources to do that. So the defense needs a lot of help. You're pretty in the dark with your left tackle situation, because Ozzie was a healthy scratch for most of this year, and the only reason he was active was because of injuries. And then Braxton Jones is a free agent, right? And then you need a running back. Like, there's a lot of things you need to do. One of the only positions you're really comfortable at is wide receiver or just pass catcher overall, because you have Colston Loveland, which we're hoping to see strides from after the bye week, him being more involved in the offense. You have Rome Odunze, who's an absolute star, and you're hoping Luther Burden can take on a large role. And then Zacchaeus has also been reliable. So again, this is not me saying that DJ Moore has played his way out of Chicago. I'm just looking at the roster and the other needs, and I'm looking at it by saying, hey, like if they can move him, he's an asset, right? And if they can move him for a draft pick, for a second-round draft pick, and then save $28 million in 2026, I think would be the right thing to do, because you have to allocate it elsewhere. The Bears are strapped for cap next year. And yeah, they can create some cap by cutting some guys. Tremaine Edmonds has not played all that well throughout his tenure with the Bears. I'm not sure if they'll be as willing to move off of him as maybe I would or Snyder would. We've talked about him being a guy that could potentially get cut next year. But, Dennis Allen could see him as a great fit in his defense, and maybe they don't want to move off from him. I think Swift is all but out the door. But again, you're only saving like $8 million if you cut DeAndre Swift. If you really want to make like a noticeable jump in salary cap and have that space, the two pieces you could potentially move off of would be Montez Sweat and DJ Moore. And I think, unfortunately, DJ Moore fits the Bears right now the least, because there are other elements surrounding this team. And you just drafted Luther Burden, right? Like, you don't draft Luther Burden for him to be your third wide receiver, in my opinion. Like, I think you eventually want him to take over that wide receiver 2 role. And I don't know when that's going to happen. I don't know if he's ready to take on that role, but that's something the Bears, I think, should be absolutely gauging. So again, this has nothing to do. I really want to make that clear. I love DJ Moore. I was a huge advocate of trading for a wide receiver during that time to kind of figure out what you have in Justin Fields, giving him a legit chance. I think DJ Moore did that. He allowed you to evaluate Justin Fields because he's not good enough, but he can still be a great wide receiver for whichever quarterback you brought in. I think last year was really rocky because of the coaching staff. And this year, I still think he's providing a role for your team. It's just, is it worth being the highest paid player on your team? I don't think it's necessarily worth that right now. And maybe that can change. I just think Rome Odunze is such a star. He's broken out. I think you can't put that genie back in the bottle. Like, I think the dynamics of this receiver, like the pecking order, has changed where Rome is that guy. And it's always great to have multiple good receivers. And I blame their inability to keep those good receivers on Ryan Poles and the defensive coaching staff, because they've whiffed. And I'll talk about the whiffs because I don't see this thing getting better. I just don't. I think the players that they've chosen, they way overpaid for them, and they just are going to need to be replaced at some point. And maybe I'm jumping the gun 4 games into the season, but these are players I didn't have great feelings about when they were signed at the time. And we'll talk about that. So I just wanted to address that. Also, there's that my guy, Mike Rossi. Titans Rossi talking about Jeffrey Simmons being potentially traded to the Bears, or like it wasn't even a report. I don't know why Bears fans took this and run with it. Eric Lambert, he wrote an article about it. Like it was just a hypothetical tweet. There was no. I talked to Mike about it, and yeah, it was just a hypothetical. We do these all the time. I have no idea why. I actually do have an idea. Eric Lambert does that a lot, right? He'll just it's more clickbait, and I understand. Like I respect the grind. You got to get your engagements. I respect it. But a DJ Moore for Jeffrey Simmons trade, that's something I didn't explore. That could make a ton of sense for both sides, right? Cam Moore needs receivers to throw to. The Bears need defensive linemen. Jeffrey Simmons has been off to an amazing start this year, like the hottest start of his career, despite the Titans being so bad. I mean, that's a trade I think that would make sense for both sides if that was on the table. But we'll see if the Bears want to make a move for defensive linemen in season. I don't know if they're willing to give up on this group yet. It's so early, and maybe I am just jumping the gun too much to be giving up on this group. But I do think they're going to need eventual upgrades. But why don't we get into this matchup? So why don't we get into the Bears offense? Man, I go back and watch the Bears offense, and I think the Cowboys game was obviously still their best performance. And I really just hope that after the bye week, the procedural penalties, they can get out of their system. Like, I understand it's still early. I understand everyone is still learning a new offense, a complex offense. This for as much of an offensive genius as Ben Johnson is, this is not like Cliff Kingsbury's offense, I would say. Like, not one where like guys can just pick this up coming from the college game, where it's kind of a collegey offense, right? It's a spread offense. They're very much comfortable in the situations that they're being put into because it's very similar to how it translates. Where the Bears offense is very pro style, like under center, big boy throws over the middle, like that. I totally understand. Like guys needing to be where they're supposed to be, having a good protection plan, playing with offensive linemen that none of these guys have ever played with, right? Like this, outside of Darnell Wright and Braxton Jones, who's now been benched. Like this is a whole new group that's like still learning how to play with each other, still learning this offense. I understand there's going to be mistakes along the way. I just think that the Bears really need to stop shooting themselves in the foot. And that's hopefully what they've worked on after the bye week or during the bye week. Because this Commanders team, I don't think on offense, at least, they don't really they have a great field playing with each other. Like this is a team that doesn't really shoot themselves in the foot. And I think for the Bears to stay pace with this offense, because I do think they're going to be able to score the Commanders, the Bears just have to be on their P's and Q's. Like they just have to not keep sabotaging themselves, because I do think they'll be able to move the ball. Some of the matchups I'm looking at is the Commanders have been one of the worst teams at defending the slot receivers. So maybe this is a DJ Moore game, or maybe this is a Luther Burden game. Maybe you feel more comfortable getting Luther Burden more snaps after the bye week. Okay, he's been able to take to the coaching more. He's understanding the playbook, where he needs to be. Again, also with this Commanders defense, they play a lot of single high coverage. So it's a lot of cover 3, a lot of cover 1. I think they run single high coverage over 40% of the time. If it's man coverage, I think that's kind of not to say like Luther Burden was like this amazing man beater. I don't think he really had the opportunity to do that in college because of the role he was in. But that's simple stuff, right? That's not, you don't have to like decipher zones, especially as a slot receiver in the middle of the field, where that maybe could play into a skill set. I think this could be a game where we see more of Luther Burden, but maybe you want to move Rome into the slot more. That's a matchup I think they need to exploit. Also, Marshawn Lattimore has been awful for the Commanders. I mean, since they really traded for him, he's been terrible. I wonder like how that's going to settle itself out. Like, could you also spam that matchup between him and Rome? I wonder who he's going to follow, because he's been following teams' best receivers and just like hasn't worked out well for him. So I'm wondering kind of that matchup. Can the Bears take advantage of that in the passing game? The Commanders have been pretty good at defending the play action pass, and they've also been pretty good at defending the run. I don't have high hopes for this Bears run game because it's been pretty rough throughout the season. Is this a game that Kyle Monangai sees more snaps? Like could Kyle Monangai become a bigger part of this run game, and maybe that gets them on track more? But not being able, if this Commanders defense is as good as they've been against the play action pass and then not being able to run. I do worry about that. I also think that, this is Theo Benedict's first start. This is not like a crazy Commanders defensive line. I think they're pretty solid. They're probably better than people give them credit for. But the guy that we need to watch out for is Dorrance Armstrong, who's probably been their best player on the defensive line. At least he's been PFF's highest graded player. And, just from watching their defense, he definitely wins his handful of reps. So he's a guy to watch out for. He'll be seeing mostly Theo Benedict, which I'm sure they'll have a plan to help Theo Benedict out. I really am I didn't really love what I saw in the first start, and he was thrown into the fire, against Max Crosby. He saw a couple times. Like, I get it, right? It was probably not going to go well. But yeah, I hope that they have a plan to help him out if need be. So what I'm looking for in this game from the Bears offense, can they find their matchups in the slot against Lattimore, with Rome, with maybe DJ Moore if they want to play him in the slot more, with Luther Burden? Like, is Luther Burden ready for more snaps? Because I think this is a great time since the Bears had such an early bye week, from here to the trade deadline. How much can you involve Luther Burden? How much can he do the meat and potato things of playing wide receiver? Like, is he just like, do you still only feel comfortable as a guy you feel like you just have to scheme the ball to, and not really him doing like the meat, potatoes, running routes consistently from the slot, or even in DJ Moore's position where he's kind of just like the flanker, line up off the ball? And again, this is not like an offense where receivers are kind of just pigeonholed into roles. Like, this is a lot of condensed stuff to where like X receiver doesn't really exist in the same way as like with this Commanders offense. But yeah, can you feel comfortable giving Luther Bird more opportunities? I think this is a good game to test that, to see like, okay, how this is going to be a great matchup for him. And how much has he really taken to the playbook and his role and what they want him to do after the bye week? Because this is, again, the bye week is a great time to gauge rookies and how much more you can involve them throughout the season. That also goes for Colston Loveland. I think, with the slot being as bad of a matchup for this Commanders defense, Loveland is a great slot player. That's what I loved about him. Those two-way goes, his change of direction, his ability to get open. I think that's another matchup. The Bears have the players to exploit this matchup. It's just whether or not, how much are we going to see of Loveland? He was a limited participant yesterday. We'll see if he can log in some full practices. It didn't sound like the injury was too major. I think it was just kind of a stinger with his hip. And a lot of people forget that Cowboys game, he was like the primary target to open that game. They were designing plays for Colston Loveland. I'm wondering to see like, was that the direction this thing was headed in? Like, was he going to become the tight end one? And then not only was he going to become the tight end one, was he going to become like a primary staple of this passing offense? I think that's a very possible outcome. And again, that's probably another reason you maybe want to consider trading DJ Moore, because the ball can only go to so many guys. And again, like, there are other aspects of this team that need help. So I think there are matchups to exploit in this passing game. This defensive line doesn't scare me too much. The Commanders do blitz at like a top 12 rate. I think they're 12th in blitz rate per next gen stats. They're 28% of the time they blitz. And they've been league average in EPA per pass when they do blitz, or EPA allowed per pass when they do blitz. So that's something to keep, that's something to keep in mind. I don't think this is a team that like full blown zero blitzes. Like, they're not that aggressive. Probably a lot of zone stuff, which I think Caleb's done a pretty good job against the blitz. Like, there was a handful of plays against the Raiders where I thought he saw it really, really well. And that's something he continues to grow. I don't think that's ever really been a bad part of, like, I remember always when Justin Fields was our quarterback, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to trash Justin Fields, but like, that was always like, okay, like, does this team blitz a lot? Because if they do, this could be rough, because he just really struggled there. And I think Caleb does a good job of getting the ball out quickly when he needs to. I just really hope that the offensive line can hold up maybe better than it did against the Raiders, because I thought there was a lot of blown protections. I thought guys were just kind of losing one-on-ones. And, you never want that. So, yeah, I'm looking at that. And then is there going to be any hope for this run game? Like, can the offensive line, the skill position players, at least gel better than they have through 4 weeks, to where you can rely on this run game to some extent? I'm not saying this has to be like one of the best run games in the league. I think DeAndre Swift was always going to hold you back from being that. I don't know when he's ever led a good running game, like an above average running game. I think that's just wasn't in the cards with how the roster is constructed. But like I will say, it has not been all DeAndre Swift. I think guys have been losing too. Like guys have been blowing their assignments. We saw Braxton Jones get literally benched for that. I know that it wasn't just that, but that was a problem, right? So we're hoping that can guys just do what they're supposed to do and make this run game at least average. We'll see. I don't have high hopes, but we'll see. And until then, it's going to be hard to like take the pressure off the passing game. I think the passing game just needs to be really, really precise, and it can be. I have high hopes for it, but like in terms of being ahead of the sticks and putting your offense in advantageous situations to do well on early downs, which this offense has not done well on early downs, which is, again, crazy to say for a Ben Johnson offense. That was what Detroit was so good at, just staying on schedule and then also creating explosive plays in those neutral situations. That is just going to be hard to do when you do not have a good run game to consistent, because again, teams aren't going to be threatened by the play action. Like if your run game is not even average, like teams aren't going to bite up on play action the way that maybe we would think that they would. And that's going to be a problem for this offense because that's what this offense wants to do. I'm just looking right now on, sorry, this is bad podcasting, but I was going to look right now after that Raiders game because I felt like every other drop back was just like a deep play action play, which I love. I love those plays. I'm a huge play action proponent, but it's hard to consistently do that when you don't have a run game to rely on. So I'm looking at play action right now, and yeah, I can't find the play action percentage, but I know it's really, really high for Caleb Williams, and which is a good thing. I thought that's where he looks at his best. But you have to really marry that run game and that pass game together. So what improvements can they make on the run game? We'll see. I don't know. Maybe they'll make a move for a running back. I'm not saying that will fix everything. I think this offensive line and the skill position players need to play better as well and just have more of a better idea of what they're supposed to be doing, because there's too many times where guys run free into the backfield. And when a guy runs free, DeAndre Swift, that's not his skill set to like make guys miss in tight spaces. He's better in open space. I think that's where he's really, really effective. And can they start using DeAndre Swift more in that role where he is more of a schemed up player, where they do get the ball out to him and more in space, because I think that's where he's always been at his best, and he can be really, really effective. Like you see against the Cowboys, that screen really comes out to me. It was like an angle screen where he's cutting inside and there's lead blockers out in front and he has so much room to work with, and he turns it for like a 40-yard gain. Like that's where Swift has always been at his best. So can they start using him more like that? Maybe they feel more comfortable after the bye that Monangai can be their thumper in between the tackles, and this run game can get more on schedule. Because what I like about Monangai, even though he's not the most explosive guy in the world, I think it's just tempo and feel. Swift, if you watch Swift, he rushes everything. He's already like 2 yards up the field before the holes show themselves to be, especially in a zone scheme, right? Where like you're supposed to be kind of patient and read it out. That's just not Swift. He rushes everything. He leaves yards on the field that way. I think we do know that Monangai has a better feel for doing that, at least, where he can be more patient. He can let things settle. He can anticipate the holes a lot better than Swift can. And hopefully they feel better about the other elements of his game, in the passing game, pass protection, to get Monangai on the field more, just to see, okay, can he be something? Can we rely on this running back duo for the season? Because if they can't, I'm not saying they should feel behooved to make a running back move, because again, I still think this team, there's a lot of things they need to improve on before I'm going to take them seriously. And again, I am not saying like Alvin Kamara or Breece Hall makes this team a playoff team. Their defense, we're going to talk about. But like, just to know, like, can Monangai be something to even for next year and for the time being, like, can this be salvaged? That's the best word. Can this be salvaged? Because I don't know if it can, but we'll see. I don't want to be too negative, but yeah, I think the Bears are going to have to put up points. I think that the Commanders will be able to put up points. And in the passing game, I think the Bears will be able to do that. I do. I think I would give the Bears offense the advantage here in the passing game from the Commanders defense, because I think they have the players to really exploit where the Commanders are weak in the secondary, because the Bears are so talented with their pass catchers. So also, I know Bobby Wagner continues to grade out really, really well for the Commanders. He's a really good run defender. He's got that veteran savvy, and the linebacker grading for PFF is a little bit. It's been criticized, and yeah, I think it's very subjective, I should say. So those are grades I don't like. I'm not fully bought into, but Colson Loveland against a guy like Bobby Wagner, who's still a good player, but like the athleticism is definitely not what it once was. That's a mismatch I think the Bears could also tap into. So there's a lot of areas where the Bears can attack this Commanders defense in the passing game. It's just whether or not can they get the run game going, can they get the play action game going. If they can do those things, then I really like the Bears offense in this one. But we'll see. I'm hoping there's some changes after the bye week, but we shall see. Why don't we move on to the defense? And this is what concerns me. This is why all my doubts about the Bears winning this game just come from the defense. The defense has been, I don't want to keep beating a dead horse, but it's just, they're banged up. Guys that are filling in for their stead. Nick McLeod has really struggled in the run game, struggled in coverage. Like, they really miss Kyler Gordon. So if they can get Kyler Gordon back, which he's practiced on a limited basis on Thursday, and they can get TJ Edwards back too. Noah Sewell done an admirable job at playing hard, but he just gets himself out of position in the run game a lot. I think he's been a problem at defending the run. And granted, like, this is what happens when you lose key starters in the middle of your defense, in the spine of your defense. You struggle to defend the run. You feel at times, or I would say a lot of the times, you feel those injuries. And the run game, I think, is specifically really hurt the Bears. And the thing with the Commanders, and I want to give them credit, their run game is awesome. Like, they do some really cool stuff. They're doing all these cool pin pull schemes with Jane Daniels and Bill Krosky-Merritt, who really showed up last week against the Chargers, who looked really, really good. And they kind of have a cast of characters there to fill in their run game. But the stuff that they do in the run game is really cool. Like, they get a lot of yards before contact to scheme things up really well. And that's what worries me about the Bears, because the Bears couldn't defend a pretty vanilla run game with what the Raiders were kind of just like inside zone, outside zone. They kind of wanted to make things simple, and they were really effective at doing it. This is going to be a whole nother level in terms of the diversity of things they're going to see with the Commanders in the run game, and I worry about that. So I don't know. I don't think TJ Edwards has practiced. I think he's probably still going to be out from this one. But if they can get Kyler Gordon back, I feel a little bit better against the run. And then obviously in coverage as well, I think that would just be a huge relief to get Nick McLeod off the field, because it's been really rough for him. But we know Kyler Gordon's like a psycho run defender, and that's what I think the Bears are missing. They're missing guys that can penetrate on the other side of the line of scrimmage and make plays, and just read and react. And that's what Kyler Gordon is so good at. He's been one of the best run defending nickels in the NFL. And the Bears really, really miss him beyond just his coverage abilities. The Commanders' offensive line isn't like anything crazy. It's not a bad group. It's a pretty solid group. Again, I think a lot of what they do, they're aided by their scheme and all of the just having Jaden Daniels there threatening him in the run game, which I know he's not 100%. He's dealing with that knee sprain. They give you a lot to worry about, right? And that's why their offense is really, really good. And I think that they're doing even more of that in the run game. I think Bill Krosky-Merritt has been one of the better running backs that they've had. I think he was an upgrade over Brian Robinson for sure in terms of just like pure explosiveness. So that's something the Bears are going to have to monitor and really, really make sure and play assignment sound, because when an offense can give you that much to worry about, that's when your head starts to spin. And I think we saw that against the Chargers, where they just could not fit the run well. And I really worry about that with the Bears, because the Bears haven't been able to fit the run well against anybody, even against the Cowboys, in which they blew them out. The Cowboys never really went away from the run game because it was working. And I just think that they've left so much to be desired in that game, or not in that game, just throughout the season, that I'm really worried that like the Commanders can just lean on that and keep the Bears offense off the field. We got to remember the Bears had 4 turnovers against the Raiders last week, and it was still like a 1-score, came down to the last moment game. I don't think that the Commanders are going to put the ball in harm's way that much. Jaden Daniels has been pretty good at taking care of the ball. So if you're not going to be getting takeaways, like, your offense is going to have to be, again, it's going to put a lot of stress on your offense because of how ineffective this Bears defense has been at stopping their opponents and stopping the run specifically. I think Dennis Allen has done some really cool stuff at disguising coverage. He fooled Geno Smith twice. Those 2 Kevin Byard interceptions, they put everyone at the line of scrimmage. They drop out, play cover 2, and the Tampa player is just coming down. Geno's trying to fit it in the middle of the field. The Tampa player, which is Kevin Byard, the guy who's defending the middle of the field, just comes down and robs the play twice. It was awesome stuff to see. I'm hoping that we can get some of those cool designs, those cool coverage disguises to maybe fool Jaden Daniels. But I think Geno Smith is a lot less risk adverse than a Jaden Daniels who has no problem checking it down or scrambling. That is not Geno Smith's game as much. So, yeah, I don't know. The Bears are going to have to really just take advantage of the moments that they might have when those plays are there. If they can generate some turnovers, then I think that will obviously help the Bears a lot. That's not breaking news, but I just don't know if they're going to have the same probability of doing that against this offense that is a lot more efficient, that is willing to take what the defense kind of gives them, than a Raiders offense with Geno Smith, who likes to force the ball down the field. So I worry about that. The positive things that are working in this Bears' favor, it's looking like no Terry McLaurin. So I think there's not really anybody on this team that scares you deep. Like, I think you can be more aggressive in your coverages, especially if you get Kyler Gordon back. I think Kyler Gordon versus Deebo Samuel and man coverage, I think that matchup definitely favors Kyler Gordon. And outside of Deebo Samuel, like, who in the passing game, who is really going to threaten you, right? Is it Luke McCaffrey? Like, I know he's had his moments this year. I don't think that's necessarily a guy that really scares me. Jalen Lane, the rookie. Again, like, this is basically a cast. Deebo Samuel, who's played a lot better this year, and a cast of characters. But the thing we know about Deebo is he's not a man coverage beater. And I know Dennis Allen has run a lot of different coverages this year. He's dealing with a very banged up secondary. He's missing his 2 best corners. So yeah, they haven't run as much man coverage as maybe Dennis Allen defenses have ran in the past. But is this an offense you feel good about doing that? I think in order to feel good about running more man coverage against a receiving group that is not the best without Terry McLaurin is obviously their best man beater. I think you have to feel good about winning up front, right? And winning with 4. And right now, I don't feel good about Bears winning with 4. I tweeted out some stats and again, it was just a little poke and fun at Ryan Poles, but it was talking about the defensive line and this pass rush and just against the run as well. So right now, through 4 games, the Bears are 32nd in QB pressure percentage. So that's dead last. They're 31st in average time to pressure. They're 31st in rushing yards before contact. They're 29th in PFF run defense grade, and they're 22nd in pass rush grade. So they're one of the worst defensive lines in the NFL. And I think Montez Sweat has had a better year, but he's drawing a lot of the attention, right? And they just don't have the guys to take advantage of that. Gervin Dexter obviously has his moments too. I think he's just more so inconsistent to get off, and everything's still like too inconsistent. When he has his moments, it looks awesome. He had a lot of those moments against the Cowboys, but you just wish they came more frequently. Dale, man, he's been a rough watch. I mean, there's just no doubt about it. He's been a rough watch. He's been a rough watch, and especially against the run, right, where they signed him to be this big-bodied edge defender who can defend the run, allow the Bears to play with light boxes. He has not been that at all. I think he's obviously not getting pushed around in the run game. Like, if a play comes right to him and he can just stand there, set the edge, that's great. But he's so immobile that, like, anything he has to chase down from the backside or glide across a gap, he's stumbling over himself. He's fallen down. I mean, it's just been a really, really rough watch, a really, really rough go. And then as a pass rusher, I just think he's giving you next to nothing. And that was what I was worried about, that, like, from a size perspective, he definitely fits what Dennis Allen wants. from an on the field production perspective, he's never been great at necessarily anything. And I think we've seen that so far. It's been an issue. Doesn't sound like Grady Jarrett's going to play. He hasn't practiced yet. Maybe he just took a rest day. But coming off a bye week, I don't really view the first day of practice as a rest day. Like, you had a whole week to rest, right? And I don't think he's going to play. And which, I don't think he was really doing much when he was playing anyway. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know where the solutions come from unless the Bears want to be aggressive in season and trade for a stud defensive lineman. This is going to be a group that struggles against the run, against the pass. Like, this is just going to be a group that really struggles. And I worry about that in this game too, because Jaden Daniels is good. I think he's better than the Bears fans are giving him credit for at like actually playing quarterback, like doing the quarterback things. And if you give him all day to throw, I think you're just going to have a really long game. And I'm looking right now against the blitz, and some of these stats might be inflated a bit because Jaden Daniels didn't play, but they're still 14th in EPA per pass against the blitz, right? So even with Marcus Mariota, I think this is an offense that gives you a lot of great answers against a lot of coverages because it's so spread out, and it's just kind of the way that they're built that they make things easy for their quarterback. If the Bears can't get home, that could just be a really big problem. They couldn't get home last year against Jaden Daniels, and I feel like the Commanders really moved the ball up and down the field. They just couldn't punch it in to score. I don't want to take those chances with the same game plan in this one. So I don't know what Dennis Allen does. Does he lean into more man coverage without Terry McLaurin? That's very, very possible. I just think if you're going to play more man, you better have someone spying Jaden Daniels, and you better be able to get home with 4. And right now, I do not feel good about the Bears getting home with 4. All right. I think we've done a pretty good job at summarizing what we're expecting in this game, where the Bears have their strengths, where they have their weaknesses. It's hard to find a lot of strengths in the defense, but I do think there's a lot of strengths on the offense where the Bears, from a receiver standpoint, from a pass catcher standpoint, they definitely have the edge. I would definitely lean the Bears being able to move the ball in this one. And maybe they can just get just enough out of the run game to where they're staying ahead of the sticks more and they're not dealing with as much third and longs, because I think over time it's just going to be – I know the Bears have been really good on third down. I think over time that's going to be a really hard way to live. You want to stay more efficient. You want to stay ahead of the sticks on those early downs to really, really maximize your offense. And I know a run game would help allow you to do that. But even in the pass game, knock out those dumb penalties. Stop shooting yourself in the foot. And I think the Bears will have a lot of success on offense. But in terms of my final predictions, it's hard to see the Bears winning this game. I just think the Commanders are the better team. I think their defense is obviously a lot better than the Bears defense. And like the Bears, for as excited as I am with their offense and for as much as I've loved what I've seen from Caleb Williams, there's still too many problems with the offense. And when I say that is they're not balanced enough. Like, they're putting too much on their passing offense. I keep beating a dead horse. I don't mean to sound repetitive, but like, I just think that if the Bears can get out to a lead and then salt the game away with the run game, I love them in this game. Keep the Commanders' offense off the field. I would think that they have way more of a chance in this game. And I don't think they can do that. Unless something significantly changes with the run game, I just don't think the Bears can lean on that element of their team. And for that reason, I don't know if they can be perfect enough. For as much as I've been encouraged with the Bears passing game, I don't know if they can be perfect enough to come out with a win. The scenario in which I see the Bears winning this game is if it's a shootout and the Bears just happen to score more points. Because I just think that I'm really worried about the Bears defense. I think this is a horrible matchup for them because of how dynamic the Commanders' run game is. And I think the Commanders will be able to keep the Bears offense off the field. Maybe I'm totally wrong, but that's what worries me the most. They don't really have the defensive firepower to get the Commanders off their spot, because the Commanders have had success basically against everyone. Maybe the Falcons you could point to that they didn't have as much success, but like still, I thought they were able to move the ball pretty well. The team that staggered them the most was the Packers, and Micah Parsons helped that out a lot, right? They just couldn't block out Micah Parsons. The Bears don't have that guy. They don't have that player that makes the offense think twice. So for that reason, I do not think the Bears are going to win. I'll say the score is 31-21 Commanders. And it's unfortunate because this is a grudge match. There's bad blood between both fan bases. I really want the Bears to come out with the win. But the win against the Raiders was too sloppy for me to think the Bears could come out, and maybe they won't coming off a bye week. Ben Johnson's a psycho. He might have an amazing game plan. I am not ruling that out. That very well could be the case. They might be a lot more buttoned up. But we just saw what the Colts did, which the Colts are a good offense. They're like one of the best offenses in the NFL. The Colts absolutely embarrassed the Raiders, right? Like offensively, they totally they scored on I think almost every drive that they had. And the Bears could have done that, but they kept making mistakes. And I just think it's too early in the season still for us to expect or to honestly expect that level of execution yet. I think it can come throughout the season. Don't get me wrong. This is year 1, y'all. This is week 6. It very well could come down, or the Bears could be that efficient of an offense. I think it's very much in the realm of possibilities. But right now, I think it's still a little bit premature to expect that against a good team that has a lot of continuity. With the Commanders are a good team, and I think they proved that last week, beating another really good Chargers team. So right now, unfortunately, I have to lean towards the Commanders. Again, my score prediction, 31-21. That does not mean this Bears season's over. I think that we'll have the rest of the year to see how they progress as a team, to see if they can fix some of the weak areas that I mentioned. But yeah, I would love to hear from y'all. If y'all think I am totally off base, if there's something you think I am missing, please comment, reach out to me on Twitter at TommyK _NFL draft. I'd love to talk to you guys. I hope this was good without Snyder. These are obviously never as good without Snyder. I love his perspective, and bouncing different concepts back at each other. So, but that is going to be it for us today. I hope you enjoyed our preview. So until we meet again, y'all, keep it real. Bear down.